Hey guys, and welcome back to another DIY video. Today I am kicking off the fall DIY season. I know it's not fall yet, but I want to be ready with all of my DIYs so that when it's time to decorate, they're all done. Today we're crafting my stash with things that I already had on hand. Let's get into it. First up, I have this sign that I picked up from Hobby Lobby a while back. I thought it was really cute with the little details. I was just showing you that it can hang up on the wall, and I paid $1.49 for it, and I've been hanging on to it. I originally thought I was going to make some type of tray out of it, but then I had an idea. So we're going to paint the bottom. I'm just painting it with some white. I don't need a full coat because we're going to actually be covering it with some fabric, but I wanted to just make sure that the words wouldn't peek through the fabric at all. So I didn't even go all the way up to the edge you can see with the paint. And yeah, so we're just going to give that a basic little base coat. If you're new to my channel, hello, my name is Leanne, and I enjoy sharing budget-friendly DIYs here on this channel. I do a lot of Dollar Tree, but I also do like Hobby Lobby clearance or thrifted items. Just try to keep it budget-friendly. And I also like to stick my head in front of the camera to make it lose focus, but don't worry, the important stuff is in focus. So at this point, I'm just using stuff I had in my stash, and I had this really fun fabric from Dollar Tree last year, but you can find fabric at a lot of places, and I'm just going in with some Mod Podge. My Mod Podge is down to the bottom of the barrel, therefore I'm picking out a lot of goopy chunks. So anyways, we're just going to put a nice coat of that around the whole thing. I'm trying to go pretty thick. I'm trying to get really into the corners and the edges, but we are going to go ahead and do a top coat as well. So we're just going to spread that out all over. And then I'm just lining up the fabric, and we're going to smooth that down, just trying to make sure that it is nice and straight so that the image isn't going crooked. And I'm just going to smooth that out. Try not to pull on the fabric, because with the moisture of the Mod Podge, you don't want to stretch the fabric. So I was trying to not shift it at all, but I am using, this is like a rubber scraper tool from Mod Podge, from Plaid, the company that creates Mod Podge or sells Mod Podge, and I'm using that to push in the corners, but I'm trying to not pull on the fabric to stretch it out, just pushing it in there so that the corners and the edges are in there nice and good. I know here it kind of looks like the fabric is crooked, but it's actually not. So yeah, so I'm just going to smooth that out very gently, and then I let that dry. It wasn't fully dry at this point, and I'm using just a sharp cutting tool, and I'm going along and cutting that. It probably would have been easier if I let it dry all the way, because there was a couple places where it wanted to pull, plus I doubt this tool is as sharp as it could be. I have another one with changeable blades, and I can't figure out how to get the old blade out to put the new ones in. I probably need to ask for my husband's help in that. But anyways, I'm just going along. You could have also probably cut it first if you wanted, but I felt like I would get a better edge this way, and I would get a better fit. But you could do this however you wanted, but you could certainly recreate something like this with other similar pieces. I just kind of went slow and took my time. I didn't want to rush it and mess it up, but it did take a little bit of time for me to get this done properly and completely. Here I am just using this putty tool to kind of push down, because I had a hard time getting in the corners, cutting the corners off, and that kind of helped me keep my fingers out of the way, but pushing down the fabric while I did it, while I cut it, I should say. And then I'm going in with some Mod Podge, and I'm going to do a nice thick coat on top, and you can see with the edges, I'm just tapping it, because if I pulled it, the bottom was still a little bit wet, and I didn't want to move the fabric, so I just kind of stippled it almost, just tapped it in around the edges, and gave a nice coat on the whole thing, but I did emphasize the corners and the edges to make sure that that was stuck down really well. And then you definitely want to let this dry thoroughly. Now I've got these wooden planks. These are from the Dollar Tree. I think they come in a 4 or 5 pack, and I'm just watering down some white paint to do a whitewash on this. I actually ended up doing 2 planks. I'm only showing you one because one plank is going to be for the next DIY. but while I had everything out, I went ahead and did them both. And I'm just thinning out the paint. I wanted to still kind of see some of the wood grain through, but I don't know. So yeah, whitewash, brushing it on, and then wiping it off with a paper towel. And on this one I did the front, back, and sides, and I didn't really need to do the back, but that's okay. That's what I did. I was so excited to pull out my fall stash and remember that I picked up some of these transfers from Dollar Tree last year, and they show it being used on a glass, but you don't need to do that. So here I am centering that on our wooden plank, and these are very sticky. Like the transfer paper sheet is very sticky compared to the other ones, but it transferred fairly easily here. I just had a couple spots I had to go back and rub again, so just make sure you pull it off slowly. And we're gonna attach that to our sign. I'm using some wood blocks with some hot glue to elevate the sign. I just thought that would be kind of cool instead of attaching it straight flat. We're gonna make like I don't know what to call it, but I'm gonna show you. And then I pulled out some different pumpkins I had in my stash. I believe they're all from Dollar Tree. And the two oranges, at first I wasn't sure because I'm like, oh, they don't like go together. And then I was like, looked at the fabric and I was like, there's definitely these two colored pumpkins together on the fabric. So these ones had a little clip on them. So I was just cutting that off, and I am going to make a little assemblage. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but we're gonna just stack our pumpkins. We're gonna make it look kind of like at a little harvest scene. So I've got a variety of pumpkins in 2 different shades of orange and white, and like 3 or 4 different sizes. And I'm just playing with this until I like it. I kind of lifted up the back side. This could be hung on the wall because this one does come with a hanger, but in the end, I'll show you it actually stands up by itself as well. Dollar Tree has a lot of like small square shadow box type things. You could do something similar, but in a smaller form. I have also in my stash were these corn husks from Hobby Lobby from last year. They were originally $5.99. I know I at least only paid 50%, but my guess is I picked these up at the end of the season for like at least 75% off is my guess. But there's a ton in here, so it's a good buy. Even if you bought it now at like the 40% off, I'm sure they have them again this year. And I'm just pulling off different pieces of them and tucking them in wherever I think it looks good. I'm using a little metal hook tool you can see to kind of help. See, my head keeps going in there. I'm using that to just kind of push down so that the hot glue adheres down in there. And we're just gonna add corn husks and pumpkins and just keep rearranging until we have a cute little pumpkin patch. That's what we're doing. We got a cute little pumpkin patch. And I know the fabric is really busy, so I wasn't really sure what to do, but I liked that the words were on the white plank because that kind of, separates it a little bit. And I love that it's like a 3D thing. And anyways, I don't know. I just really thought this was a cute idea. So let me know what you think. And I did not plan any of this. I mean, I didn't buy anything with this in mind. I did plan this before I started doing it. But I just kind of used what I had and it worked out perfectly. And then I did decide to seal in the rub-on transfer. It was a little bit sticky and I don't know, I just figured it'd be easier to clean. It would look nicer this way. And this is how it came out. I thought it was pretty cute. And I love that it just kind of stands up by itself, but it could also be hung up on the wall. And you could do this in a different size or shape using something from the Dollar Tree or the thrift store. But don't overlook those clearance items from Hobby Lobby either. For our next DIY, I have this pumpkin sign. It is from the Dollar Tree last year, and I'm just gonna take off the twine hanger. And I wanted to show you both sides. It's got a beautiful coloring, beautiful texture, but it is kind of like chippy. It's got like this raw wood. And so I decided to protect it by using some matte Mod Podge, hoping that would keep it from like flaking off while I was working with it. So I Mod Podged both sides of this, and I tried to get a little bit on the edge. Now, I started out this DIY planning to do just one side of it, but in the end I was like, wait a minute, why don't I make this a double-sided sign? So I did both sides, two very different looks. So you could do one or the other, or you could also do both, or just use this for basic DIY inspiration. If you are enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up, say hello in the comments, and if you're new, I would love it if you would consider subscribing before you leave, and make sure you turn your notification bell on. But all of those little interactions let YouTube know that you're enjoying my video and makes them more likely to share my video with others. So once the Mod Podge was all dried is when I decided that I was going to do the other side. So originally I was just using the dark side, but now I wanted to use the light side with this fabric. And this is more fabric from the Dollar Tree that I had picked up last year. And I'm going to do the iron-on method. I believe, okay, so I'm throwing some parchment paper on top and then ironing with no steam and on I don't even know what setting I had it on, but this will reactivate the Mod Podge. Had I planned to do with this ahead of time, I would have done a little bit of a thicker layer of Mod Podge on this, but it still ended up working in the end. But this here is in real time. I'm just taking my time, making sure to go over all of the edges and let that Mod Podge reactivate and heat up the, or what am I trying to say? Reactivate the Mod Podge and adhere the fabric. Now, this would have been great for the first DIY too, but I didn't think I could get into the corners of the sign, which is why I didn't use this method. But this really does help with fabric, especially, and I'm not having any wrinkles. So I'm now trying to trim this off. My little rotary blade, I was having trouble. This was another struggle bus for me, but it's probably just due to not having great tools. And I know that I believe you could sand off the fabric, but I wasn't really sure how that would work, but I do end up going to that in just a second here. I trimmed off most of it with my cutting tool, and then I went in with a nail file, or you could use sandpaper, and you go away with it so that you don't pull up on the fabric. But the problem is, because of this material being a little bit rougher, like I showed in the beginning of it, I was feeling like I was gonna mess up the wood planks. Anyways, I decided that I needed to put another coat of Mod Podge on top, and then once that was dry and everything was hard, I went back in with my nail file to smooth out any of the other edges. I just felt like the edges were starting to fray a little bit. So overall, you really honestly can't tell, but I just wanted to take you through the process that I went through. So now it is all dry, and this was my original intention with these pieces here. The Welcome Fall came in a word pack from the Dollar Tree, and then the little trucks came in a pack from Hobby Lobby. Several of them were in the pack. I'm using this wood glue super glue and just trying to very carefully apply this to whatever open space I can find. I should have used a glue that dries clear. This does not dry clear, I don't believe. So as I'm pushing on this and it starts oozing out around the letters, I'm like, oh, I don't know that I need to clean that up. So I held it down really well so that it didn't move while it was drying, and went in with a paper towel to wipe out any excess. I don't have a fine tip hot glue gun, so I knew I couldn't go that route, but I should have just used a different glue. This glue stuck really well, but there was such a small space to try to get the glue on. So when it came around the edges, I didn't want it to be seen once it was all dry. So clean that up, and then I used a little bit of that glue and a little bit of hot glue on the truck, just since there was a little bit bigger of a surface to work with, and attach one of those to either side of the Welcome Fall. And now I am attaching some jute cord or jute twine to the top around the stem, and I'm just using a good amount of glue and kind of twisting the jute cord to keep it a tight twist as I go around it. And this jute cord, I don't think I show it to you in this video, is a huge, gigantic spool that I found at a thrift store. I think it was originally from Hobby Lobby for like $25, and it was brand new in packaging. at a thrift store for like $6. So I'm gonna be using it. And lots of hot glue here at the end to just try to cover up the whole thing. And the top is kind of the hardest, especially to not burn yourself. So I'm just using some tools to help push that down while the glue dries. So that looks great for both sides. So now I'm going in with a lighter to just kind of burn off any extras and any little glue hanging around. And then I'm taking these leaf cutouts. This is not a fall item. This is just a Dollar Tree Crafter Square item. I ended up switching out to this more unique looking leaf. I thought that was kind of more fun and whimsical, and a little bit of glue, and we're attaching that to this side. And now I didn't want this to be a hanging sign. I wanted to have a base. So we're going to take some Jenga blocks and that other wood plank that I told you about in the beginning that I made 2 of, and I'm using some of the wood glue and some hot glue and attaching some Jenga blocks. And I just keep standing it up to make sure that the Jenga blocks are going to be flush with the base. And then we're going to attach these to the base, and then we'll add more Jenga blocks to the reverse side. So hopefully that all makes sense. And then we're going to cover this up so it doesn't matter that they're not painted. Now I'm going in with some of this moss, this darker colored moss from Dollar Tree, and I'm just putting tons of hot glue. Be very careful to not burn yourself, and lots of moss, and I'm just going all the way around both sides. On the edge, I tried to make sure I was covering up like the edges of the Jenga blocks on the end pieces just so that you couldn't see any of that. And I just kind of figured like go heavier with it and then trim it off like I'm doing here with the scissors. And I really liked the way that this looked. So I've got one side here that's a little bit more bright and whimsical, and then the other side which is a little bit more rustic and farmhouse. So you can either choose which side or use this maybe on a kitchen island where you would be seeing both sides. Anyways, that is it for today's video. I hope you liked it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, say hello in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.